So I'm gonna lead you through me and my wife's all our little critter setups. It's just gonna be kind of what we have and roughly quickly what we use in each tank, because I can't do each tank. I can't take 10 minutes on each because it'll be the time of a motion picture movie by the time I'm done. So this is my tiger salamander, and his name is Chub Chubs, and he is humongous. He's an eastern tiger salamander. You're allowed to keep these guys, and as you can see, it looks like he's always smiling. He looks so happy. Look at him. Such a cute guy, man. Good lizard. And he eats like a champ. As you can see, he is the biggest tiger salamander I have ever seen. You know, pictures on the web, you know, people posting pictures, whatever. He's a foot in length, and he's a few inches in diameter. 3 at the very least. As you can see, he is humongous. He's big. He's a very, very big tiger salamander. We have his tank set up. This is a UV bulb, but you don't need them. You don't need them for these species. Right here, I have a filter that has a waterfall spout on the top of it. Sprays waterfall into the top of this plant, and it kind of carries the water current to right here. And right here is another waterfall, the spout that goes that way, and it's pushing the water this way. So we have a very nice circular motion happening in this tank. Fake plants, fake plants, fake plants. There's 2 real ones right here. Yeah, fake plant here. Piece of driftwood, stone for him to kind of sit there if he wants to dry out a little bit. This stuff here, the brown stuff, is called, well, here it is right here. But I'll show you all this stuff at the end. It's called sphagnum moss. It's really good for reptiles that have to stay moist. They live kind of near, you know, river or swampy areas. The green stuff all along here, that's called frog moss, and it comes in the exact same box as the sphagnum moss that I'm going to show you at the end of the video here. These are my Cuban Knight anoles. This water does need to be changed, but it's only, it was changed first thing yesterday morning. So that's just a bunch of dirt from them kicking it in when they were running around, because, yeah, one was running around on the floor the other day. It kind of tipped off the wall and kind of did its thing on the floor, and I'm not sure if she was laying eggs, because I do have a male and a female. But real plant, real plant, real plant, fake plant. Those are the only 3 real plants in this on the ground, just in case a leaf falls off. I don't want a reptile kind of plummeting. Water needs to be changed, but jungle flooring mixed with, I'll show you everything at the end anyways. So these are my Cuban Knight anoles. As you see, this tank is the size of a small closet. Very, very nice setup. Very, very substantial size tank for them for the rest of their lives. And as you can see, my Cuban Knight anoles are a substantial size because of the tank and me feeding them constantly. And I don't mean like overfeeding them. I just mean feeding them when they need to be fed, and when they're hungry. I can kind of tell because they look at me like, I've just owned reptiles long enough to know what they're kind of asking me for. I've owned them for 15 years. I can kind of tell when they're thirsty. I can kind of tell when they, you know, so. But that's the male. His name's Skunk. That's the female. Her name's Citrus. I do have 2 5.0 UV bulbs, a basking spot with a 100 watt. I'll show you all the light boxes and stuff at the end with a 100 watt basking light. That red light right here is for nighttime purposes, when I change the basking bulb into a red basking bulb for nighttime. You know, I do have the little dripper set up, and I actually replaced the hose in it with a different hose so I can run it longer into the tank, and it's actually dripping right along these plants here, so they can come over and sap up some water off the plants if they need to. So these are my beardies. I do have 3 in this tank. Loco, Dozer, and Dexter is the big boy down here on the ground. That's Dozer, and that's Loco, the curious one. She's the youngest. Their tank's set up with sterilized playground sand. I see I have a mess to clean up. You know, pieces of sterilized wood. There's plenty of videos on YouTube of how to sterilize wood, so I'm not going to go down that road. This is not dirt in their food dishes by any means. It is actually bearded dragon food, and it's kind of like a kibble, small kibble. This is their basking light, 150 watt basking. I believe it might be 100 watt. I don't really recall. But this is my blue-tongued skink, Blueberry. And she is just waking up now. She just came out, so I'm going to have to give her a light so she can kind of wake up and, you know, so I can feed her and she's not all grouchy and whatever. So that's Blueberry. She gets it basking. She doesn't get UV because I do have this humongous window right here that does let a lot of light into this whole area, and it's very, very, very good for my lizards. And I actually need to open my blinds up to let the more light in. I just don't like to do that first thing in the morning and kind of my lizards, right? So these are my crested geckos. There's one, and you can kind of see one just below him in the back there, just below him. He's a little bit smaller, but it's bubblegum and cotton candy, boy and girl, I believe. I've kept crested geckos for a very long time, and I just recently started to, well, I thought, you know what, I haven't had crested geckos for a few years, and I kind of miss them, so we went and got two. And this is their setup. They don't have any lights or UV because they don't need it. That is a special reptile diet for, you know, iguanids, and, well, I'll show you what it is at the end. And I change it every 36 hours. There's the waterfall, so there's absolutely no puddles for them to fall into. That's just moisture purposes, and if they ever get thirsty and I haven't sprayed them. But I'm always spraying my lizards. It's not like I don't. I just say that just in case it's there, you know, just in case I run out to work in one morning and I forget to spray them before I leave. Well, they have the waterfall if they need some water. These are my 3 fire-belly toads, Larry, Curly, and Mo. And as you can tell, they're the 3 Stooges. And they have their own little waterfall. Their frog moss, smag moss, all this kind of stuff is in here. Fake plants, real stuff, everything is kind of mixture, rocks, and this stuff is, you can buy it at pet stores. It actually came with the waterfall setup, but it's like it's a natural kind of like a water filtration type of rock substance that you buy, but you have to put a mesh, as you see here. This mesh goes over top of it, and then you can lay your, you know, your cypress or whatever, so it doesn't go through the mesh and kind of dirty your water up, and then you lay your frog moss and your sphagnum moss on the other side. And this is our newest buddy. He's Iggy the iguana. He's going to be a handsome devil. Blue, he's going to have lots of blues in his head, lots of oranges. You can't really see it for some reason, but if you were here with me, you see orange striping on his back, blue on his face. Very, very handsome lizard. And this tank is huge. It's 4 feet. So don't think I have him in a little tiny 20-gallon tank or something, because that is definitely not the case at all. He's got lots of room to grow in here. I do have 2 6-foot cages for when he gets bigger, one for inside, one for outside. That's his food dish. If you're wondering why there's no food in there, is because once he's done eating, and I think he's had enough food and he kind of leaves, I'll take the food out of there because I don't want it to get full of dirt. And then let him eat that, and in return have some kind of impacted intestines or anything like that. So that's just what I do, you know, because I don't like to put newspaper down. I just don't. Not only I don't like the look of it, I just don't want him ingesting any newspaper by mistake, or there's ink in the paper, and I don't think that could be good for any reptile, because that's not something that they come across in the wild. So, you know, if whoever puts their newspaper in their tank and is going to, you know, call me a meathead or whatever for having this stuff in my tank, just don't leave a comment, because I really don't have time to argue with you about the subject, and, you know, I have, you know, other things to do. But he is totally 100% healthy. He eats like a pig. And like I said, I do not leave food down for him because I don't want him having any kind of issue with, you know, a piece of wood stuck to some lettuce, or some, you know, dirt on a berry, and then him having, you know, intestinal problems. This is his water dish that he seems to do his business in, you know, defecate and kind of whatever, so I do change it often. This, on the other hand, is a waterfall. And the only time it happens, if he poops where he's sitting, it'll go in the waterfall. But it's really weird because he just likes to come over here and poop on this log, or poop in the water dish over here. So he's kind of smart. This is my setup for my Savannah monitor that I'm actually waiting for. She's going to be 12 inches when I get her, roughly. Underneath her house here is a heating pad, so she's got, you know, and on the top there's going to be, as you can see, the grate, there's going to be basking and some UV over here. Basking is going to be for this piece of wood. We do have grates for extra ventilation on the sides of the tank, so I can, you know, not worry about having too much heat in there and her not being able to escape from it because there's so much ventilation. And I actually do have a circulating fan all the time in here for a natural breeze for these guys. So, and it's not really pointed directly at the cages, it's kind of more above them, so the wall kind of, the air kind of hits the wall and travels wherever it wants to go. In here I do have a pacman frog. It's underneath this log right about there. It's only about this big right now. I had a really big one, but it passed away. It just got old and passed away, so I just recently bought a new one. This is a really good idea. I don't know how many people actually do this, but I kind of thought of this myself. It's sphagnum moss, jungle flooring, right to the top of this big dish, and then I fill it up with water just in case, you know, things get a little dry in here for him. He can hop up into this part and bury right down into there, and he'll be nice and wet right up almost to his eyes. So that's, you know, those are all my lizards. Now this is the stuff that I use in my tanks. Sphagnum moss, good for any lizard that, or anything, whatever that needs to keep moist. Lizard, amphibian, iguana, it doesn't matter. This is what I use for my bearded dragon basking. This is what I use for nighttime, for whatever reptile. Well, I use this for my bearded dragons because they seem to, you know, use it more. If I use this on another tank, the lizards kind of go away from it. The only ones that go near this light at nighttime is the bearded dragons. So I do keep this on the bearded dragons. This right here is the light that I have in my iguana's tank. This is his basking light. This is the basking lights, or my UV lights that I use for all my reptiles that require 5.0. These are the ones. So it's in my iguana and my Cuban tanks. These over here are for their little tiny mealworms, I think is what they're called. They're for my geckos. These are 2 or 3 week old super worms for my tiger salamander. These are 2 week old crickets for my smaller, you know, my toads and my my crested geckos and things like that. That'll eat the smaller ones. This is also very good for any reptile that eats fruits, vegetables, all that kind of stuff. It does actually kind of let you know a rundown of, you know, what you can feed it to: bearded dragons, iguanids, Cuban Knight anoles, or just anoles in general. Here's the Repti calcium that I use with vitamin D3, but this is also another good brand, Flukers. So it's really up to you guys where you want to go. Zoomed, Flukers, whatever, Exoterra, just I really use Exoterra. As you can see, these are all the plants I buy are Exoterra, all the jungle vines I buy, the waterfalls, all that kind of setup, things like that, I buy Exoterra. This right here was the combo pack I bought for my Cuban Knight anoles, nighttime, daytime. This is a big tub. I get my big crickets and my big mealworms in bulk. I keep my mealworms in here, I feed them.